Welcome back to the Gavel. Quite a number of bills scaled second reading during the week under review. There were a series of motions as well, from the former Deputy President of the Senate, Ike Ekweremadu, calling on the different tiers of government to declare a state of emergency on unemployment in the country, to the House of Representatives making moves to amend the Legislative House's Powers and Privileges Act 2017 to provide punishment on the police or any other law enforcement agent who refuses to arrest any person as directed by a legislative house, especially persons who fail to honor a summon of a legislative house. Interesting. Take a listen.
President Muhammadu Buhari's letter was read by the President of the Senate during Tuesday's plenary, seeking the confirmation of Mr. Mohammed Nani as the new executive chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service and Mr. Edward Adamu as the new chairman of the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria, AMCON.
I'm pleased to forward for confirmation by the Senate the underlisted names of nominees as the chairman and members of the Federal Inland Revenue Service. 1. Muhammad Mamman Nami, Executive Chairman, North Central. In accordance with Section 10, Subsection 1 of the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria Outcome Act 2010, I hereby present Mr. Edward Lametek Adamu for confirmation as chairman of the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria by the distinguished Senate.
The House of Representatives on Tuesday mandated its relevant committees to investigate the alleged invasion of the Federal High Court by the Department of State Services in its bid to rearrest Mr. Omoyele Sowore.
The House is concerned that the men of the civil society claims that the unidentified marked man are agents of the Department of the State Services, DSS. A situation where one arm is seen to be overpowering another in the course of dispersing her duties will definitely spell doom for the separation of powers as enshrined in the Constitution.
Page 616.
Meanwhile, the same matter was also raised in the Senate, prompting the Senate President to set up a committee to investigate and report back for further legislative action.
The reported alleged invasion of the courtroom, again by alleged officials of the Department of State for Security, is one issue that has raised a lot of concern in different quarters in Nigeria. Yet, much as we cannot just jump into conclusions, it's also a fact that we cannot pretend not to know that Nigerians are concerned about this development.
A bill to establish a federal roads authority scaled second reading at the Senate on Wednesday. The bill, which was sponsored by Senator Geshion Bassi, will give powers of ownership, regulation, management and development of federal road networks to the agency when created.
It is time for Nigeria to have a road authority that is in sync with international best practices on best practices on road management and maintenance. A road authority that will measure up to countries like Australia, Denmark, Switzerland, and the Netherlands, amongst others.
The Senate on Wednesday also resolved to probe the Central Bank of Nigeria and its subsidiary, the Nigeria Interbank Settlement System, NIBSS, over an alleged failure to remit 20 trillion naira stamp duties revenue to the Federation account. The resolution follows a motion by Senator Ayo Akinyelure.
The Senate concerned that despite the federal government action to appoint a consultant with patent right and vast knowledge of stamp duty due to the federal government of Nigeria as stamp duty recovery consultant since 12 October 2017 for recovery of over 20 trillion from Nigeria Interbank Settlement System, NIBSS, to the Federation account in line with the patent right of recovery consultant. Mesa School of Banking Honors and International Investment Law and Arbitration LLC now in force. The Central Bank and Nigeria Interbank Settlement System have technically refused to comply with presidential directive for realizing of these laudable objectives of the federal government of Nigeria for recovery of over 20 trillion revenue into the coffers of government.
Meanwhile, the Senate is asking the federal, state and local governments to declare a state of emergency on the provision of employment to Nigerian youth. The lawmakers also want the federal government to initiate a sustainable unemployment fund for the payment of living stipends to unemployed Nigerians until such persons secure any kind of employment.
A report published by National Bureau of Statistics in 2019 stated that Nigeria's unemployment rate stood at 23.1% of the workforce in the third quarter of 2019. Further note that a statement created to Senator Chris Ngige, Minister of Labour and Productivity, and published in Premium Times of 9th November 2019, declared that Nigeria's unemployment rate will hit 33.5% by 2020. We know that unemployment is one of the major reasons why insurgency, kidnapping, armed robbery, cyber crimes, and other vices are in increase.
My name is Honorable.
During Thursday's plenary in the House of Representatives, a number of bills were scheduled for second reading. One of them was for an act to amend the Constitution and provide a timetable for submitting the names of ministerial or commissioner nominees, with portfolios attached and evidence of declaration of assets and liabilities of those nominees.
In this amendment, I am proposing 21 days for elected presidents and elected governors to submit their list of ministerial nominees and commissioners to the legislative arm. And again, very necessary for whoever, Mr. President or the governor, to bring in the names with the attached portfolio so that Nigerians can even sit in their house and see that this person, yes, is questioned.
Another bill which requires alteration of the Constitution seeks to make free, compulsory and basic education a fundamental right of all citizens.
As it is now, education is under the directive principles of state policy, which is not justiciable. It's not actionable in court. You cannot hold government into account or take any tier of government to court saying that you have not gotten access to at least basic pre and compulsory education.
A third bill seeks to amend the Legislative House's Powers and Privileges Act of 2017 to provide punishment to the police or any other law enforcement agent who refuses to arrest any person as directed by the Legislative House, especially persons who fail to honor a summon of the Legislative House.
Even though Section 129 of the Constitution empowers the National Assembly and state assemblies to compel attendance or appearance before committees through arrests and fines, the punishment so prescribed has been so mild.
The Legislative House's Act of 2017 permits a Legislative House to issue a warrant of arrest on any person. But does it conflict with Chapter 5 of the 1999 Constitution, which does not expressly say the word arrest, but only empowers a Legislative House to issue a warrant to compel the attendance of any person who, after being summoned to attend, fails, refuses, or neglects to do so? Another bill which scaled second reading is for an act to alter Section 7 of the 1999 Constitution and ensure that local government chairmen are no longer under the control of state governments.
This bill will not just only do or give the authority for the election of chairmen, but at the same time, it will stop the issue of caretaker committees, caretaker chairman, administration that most of governors usually use it to do what they want to do.
The House also passed through second reading a bill for an act to separate the office of the Attorney General of the Federation from that of the Minister of Justice.
Our final report is on the oversight tour of the House Committee on Youth Development to Kogi State NYSC camp. Quite a lot of revelations. The House of Representatives Committee on Youth Development paid a visit to the Kogi State NYSC camp in Kaba, where the members inspected and noticed the state of the facilities. At the end of the inspection tour, while acknowledging the state of dilapidation, the chairman of the committee charged the state government to speed up the completion of ongoing projects in the camp.
A lot is being ongoing, and then we want to urge the state government to expedite action on those ongoing projects, especially on the hostels and then the other areas, the other facilities of the infrastructure, that the ones that needs to be upgraded, the ones that needs to be renovated afresh, and the new ones that are just springing up, especially the hall and then the male hostel.
The committee afterwards met with the Deputy Governor of Kogi State and relayed its findings.
What urge the state government to please assist in completing very, very soon, because when we look at the hostels that where we put the young Nigerians in now is seriously congested, and it is not good for the health of young Nigerians. We want them to have a first-hand experience of how other areas in Nigeria feel like, especially outside their homes. Because when you bring somebody from Kano, somebody from Cross Rivers, somebody from Lagos to come to Kogi first time, so knowing Kogi, like they will take from Kogi to Ekiti, then and so on and so forth. So we want them to have a first-hand experience that Nigeria and that Nigerian leaders are really ready for them.
You mentioned several structures, from the second hostel to the multipurpose hall, of course, to the fencing and gatehouse clinic, and then environmental issues with which we should be able to ensure a proper channeling of the water and everything out of the camp, and of course the parade ground to become something of equal standard, if not a better standard than what we have in some states. I believe that, just like I said, we should be able to achieve this in the year 2020 by the grace of God.
Well, the budget passed by the National Assembly has been transmitted to the President for assent. In my telephone conversation with the Senior Special Assistant to the President on National Assembly matters, who confirmed this, he assured that the budget will be signed by the President and that it will still run from January to December 2020. That's The Gavel. Thanks for watching. Send feedback to thegavel@channelstv.com. I'm Terry Ikumi. Bye for now.